Nevada's mining roots begin to flower at 6 Mile Canyon. In 1859, Peter O'Reilly and Patrick McLaughlin were placer mining at the very head of 6 Mile and decided to enlarge a spring to generate more water for their operation. While digging, they found crumbly black rock laced with gold. The black rock turned out to be incredibly rich silver, and the rest is pretty much history. Incidentally, the Comstock lode gets its name from a loudmouth drunk, Henry Comstock, who was working an area close by, and he claimed part of the ownership of O'Reilly and McLaughlin's claim. In order to avoid a dispute, they agreed to include Comstock as a co-owner. While Virginia City is found at the very head of 6 Mile, two other towns, Mount Pleasant and Ophir, were settled below in the canyon. Several large mills, including the Gould and Curry, and a cyanide operation called Butter's Mill, which is at the head of 7 Mile Canyon, that's 2 miles south of Virginia City, were also located here. There are numerous lode mines up and down the canyon. 6 Mile Canyon empties just north of Highway 50, about 4 miles east of Dayton in the Carson Plains. There is a sign on the highway for the canyon, and a paved road follows it all the way to the top where Virginia City is. So here we are just past the initial bridge at the opening of the canyon. Especially along the lower end of the canyon past the bridge, there is quite a bit of bedrock. At several points, the stream bed cuts especially deep and exposes layers of iron ore. As the iron combines with water, it rusts and creates this red strata. If you dig into the red material, you will find unoxidized iron, which is just black. As iron is a good indicator for gold, and quartz is too, and there is plenty of quartz up and down the canyon, you would think with the presence of bedrock, the area would be good placer mining. So I picked out a spot in the dry creek bed where it had just rounded a sharp bend and then widened into a straightaway. I am immediately up against a solid bedrock wall, and there are no tailings or indications of placer mining. I proceeded to dig a deep hole following the bedrock sidewall as it dropped further and further underneath the stream bed. I made sure I stayed immediately on top of the bedrock and was able to find some crevices and cracks to clean out. Finally, the bedrock leveled off, and I followed it across the bed for a modest while. All of my material was classified by 1/4 inch, and I initially dry panned everything. As long as your dirt is ultimately dry and classified, dry panning works just fine and is just as reliable as wet panning. Once I got down to about 1/8 of a pan, I would process the last little bit of dirt in water. Well, did I find anything? Not a stinking speck. No wonder there is very little placer remains along 6 Mile. I have heard of others finding tiny color beyond the bridge after a hard wash, but I would suspect it was plenty tiny, both in size and amount. My recommendation? Leave the canyon to the tarantulas. Go placer somewhere else. Don't bother here.